Trump economy continues its roller coaster. Unrest in Iran equals mass murder. Attacks on ICE agents continue. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America with my own take on key stories from this past week focused on politics and business. As usual, we have hot stories from all over the world. Trump economy continues its roller coaster. The U.S. economy needs to add as many as 120,000 jobs a month to stay up with the population growth and course graduations. Against that benchmark, job growth has been anemic for a couple of years. Yes, remember that the liars running the stats for the last year, the Biden-Harris, overstated job growth by 800,000 jobs. I believe the Trump administrators are trying to get it right. Several recent months had no job growth, and for December, looks like only 50,000 new jobs. An interesting stat is that the unemployment rate dropped to 4.4%. But how is that possible? Well, that means many job seekers are discouraged and have stopped looking for work. So sometimes what looks good news really is not. I know many of my fine students are having challenges finding full-time positions, although internships seem to be plentiful. So hopefully those will lead to full-time positions. The lack of jobs is blamed on AI and the uncertainty involving tariffs. The Fed continued its slow rate reduction last month, knocking the rate down another quarter point to 3.72% effective rate. With all this going on, buckle your seatbelts for the 2026 economy. Unrest in Iran equals mass murder. Iran admits to 2,000 people killed in the protests against the current extremist government. The problem is that it may be much, much worse than that. I saw a number as high as 16,000 killed, and I believe at least 5,000 have been killed to date. The murderous regime is going to start hanging as many as 800 protesters they had in custody, but Trump threatened Iran and they reportedly backed down, at least for now. In turn, Trump withdrew plans to bomb Iran again. This in sharp contrast to the failed Obama administration's fake warnings in 2009. Iran takes Trump seriously after the USA pulverized their nuclear bomb facility. Trump swears his support for the protesters, but I would like to know exactly what that looks like. I support anything other than American boots on the ground. Time to free the people of Iran from the slavery conditions they are now under. I do know that the economic sanctions are crippling the Iranian economy, and that is driving the current round of protests. Word is that the terrorists running Iran have already planned an escape to Russia. Hope that happens soon, but then again, that creates the infamous void, and I'm not sure that the good guys are in a position to take over that void. Attacks on ICE agents continue. It's no secret that I'm a hardcore law and order person. I ask the public to reserve judgment following the deadly shooting in Minnesota. Well, the riots continue, but the news that I've seen appears to overwhelmingly support the officer shooting to defend himself against a deadly threat. In the meantime, two TDA associates were shot and wounded while resisting arrest in Portland. Again, I support the ICE agents. The criminal illegals were apparently using the vehicles they were in to threaten the ICE agents. And an ICE agent was attempting to arrest a criminal illegal when that person broke away and the agents pursued him. Then two other bad guys dived into the fray with, get this, snow shovels and broomsticks. The agent resorted to using his handgun to wing the first suspect for his own safety. All three are in custody. The agent managed to survive with minor injuries. I would have endorsed kill shots for all three if I had a say in that case. The anti-American morons running Oregon and Minnesota continue to shout anti-American slop and are preventing their local police from protecting ICE from the rioters. All I can say is that when any reasonable person reviews the criminal records of those being arrested by ICE, it is clear that this is for the benefit of all of us. These scumball politicians are not acting for their constituents, and that's for sure. Johnson & Johnson to cut drug prices. Mega corporation Johnson & Johnson cut a deal with the Trump administration to cut drug prices in exchange for tariff relief on some items. They also have committed to building two new factories in the United States. This follows deals previously made with 9 other major drug companies regarding Medicaid and cash buyers. This is a little touted story about the efforts of the current administration to help Americans. It has irritated me for years that American drug prices are often 3 and 4 times higher than in other countries. Right, we Americans have been ripped off by the drug companies for decades. The Johnson & Johnson plants will be built in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. The investment is estimated to be about $55 billion. The Greenland controversy. I'm on record as not supporting any effort for the U.S. to take over Greenland. It makes no sense to go after allied countries. Recently, several NATO countries sent troops to Greenland in a show of force. That's great, but they should be doing it to show Russia and the CCP, not Trump. In previous Saving America episodes, I've emphasized that we need to have great relations with our allies. Think about it. We can do less and can focus on high-tech developments if our allies will cover their share. So I hope Trump will soon announce that due to the positive developments with the rest of NATO, Greenland is secure. The U.S. should use our access to Greenland to develop a Golden Dome and anti-missile armaments there. We simply do not need to take over the country to do that. A German woman does more jail time than the rapist she criticized. The story is that 9 attackers gang raped a 15-year-old girl in Hamburg, Germany. This woman, who was commenting on the punishment of the rapist, was found guilty of defamation of one of the attackers. She called him a disgraceful rapist pig. The rapist served no jail time since he was a teenager. However, she, the woman commenting on this, was jailed for a weekend. This is ridiculous for sure. Unfortunately, I'm hearing more and more stories like this from the UK as well. I hope our allies like the UK and Germany will get on board with real Western civilization. Both countries are starting to sound more and more like Iran. Details on the billions of dollars in fraud losses in Minnesota continue to flow. As America tips the $39 trillion mark for official national debt, the news from Minnesota continues to shock the conscience. It also appears more likely that Tampon Timmy and his buddies in Minnesota were well aware of the scams and kept quiet since they wanted the votes from the scammers and their supporters. The reports include Medicaid, which reports indicate total $18 billion in expenditures since 2018. There is no accurate report as to how much of these funds was designed to help low-income households has been now flushed down the toilet. I saw a report indicating that bundles of money have been documented going to Somalia. The Fed prosecutor called the situation industrial level fraud. Other programs being looted include Medicare and SNAP. I know taxpayers like myself are screaming for prosecutions of all involved. Serious prison time and recovery of funds must be obtained in these cases. As my regular listeners know, I favor total elimination of most of these programs at the federal level. The states can decide what to spend their money on and will then be the proper guardians of those funds. As we say, then they will have skin in the game. America needs energy. Due to the expansion of AI and quantum computing, America needs even more energy than previously projected. At the same time, the Trump administration has gone full tilt against wind power. I take a more balanced approach. I agree that many wind farms, especially recently, are poorly conceived and can constitute more risk to commerce and wildlife than is justified. However, I have been to places that have successfully developed some wind power, so I'm not against it in a blanket fashion. The Trump Department of Interior is reportedly pausing all wind farms at this time. The department is claiming that the proposed wind farms constitute national security risks. I'm not exactly sure how those wind farms would constitute such a risk, and the reports that I saw did not provide much detail. Trump has been a very outspoken opponent of wind farms since before he was elected, so more to come on this. Department of War targets Senator Mark Kelly. Kelly is a Dem senator from Arizona who stupidly joined a handful of clowns who claimed that active members of the military could refuse unlawful orders. They, of course, failed to define what they considered unlawful. This has been labeled by Trump and others as seditious behavior. I agree with that, though, given the fine line here, I doubt anyone will be thrown in the brig. In an interesting approach, Kelly, who retired from the Navy in 2011, is being activated so that the feds may challenge his rank. If they are successful, they could bust his rank, causing him to lose future retirement pay from the military. As it is, he is what is referred to as a double dipper. That is someone who gets two or more federal pensions. So, other than bruising his ego, it is unlikely it'll cost him very much, if anything. Kelly claims this is a political attack. I think the action actually is appropriate. However, I would quickly volunteer that I want all federal pensions, except the military, stopped immediately. The Fed employees can live with savings plans. That's right, the infamous 401k plans that the vast majority of private sector employees have available to them, not the lucrative pensions like our so-called public servants. Could Maha hurt the GOP in the 2026 elections? Maha stands for Make America Healthy Again, a take on the Make America Great Again Trump theme. The leader of this is HHS Secretary RFK Jr. A controversial issue is the number and type of childhood vaccines recommended by his agency. I'm a big fan of necessary and effective childhood vaccines. I'm not an expert on this, so I have to defer to the medical community on this matter. It does seem to me that too many vaccines are being recommended for our little people, but which ones? Apparently, a lot of young family members prefer the larger number of vaccines, 17 versus the now recommended 11. I'm very surprised by this. So the story is that the GOP candidates in swing districts who support Maha may take a beating in November. On the positive front, voters generally like Maha other than vaccines, like the elimination of questionable chemicals and colors in common food. Food preservatives may be bad for you. Consistent with Maha, some recent studies indicate that food preservatives may increase the risk of type 2 diabetes and some cancers. The report is based on Nutrinet Santé cohort. This is a long-term research study from France, which started in 2009. From my perspective, I like long-term studies since they are more credible, in my opinion, than the many short-term studies that we hear about in the news on a pretty frequent basis. An amazing 170,000 adults were tracked in the study to determine the impact of diet on health over the long run. Type 2 is becoming a major threat to health in America, so understanding the French study results can have a major impact. The level of detail in the study is compelling. 58 preservatives were identified, 17 eaten by at least 10% of the study group. In turn, a batch of common food additives were tied to type 2 diabetes. This list included potassium sorbate, potassium metasulfite, sodium nitrite, acetic, citric, and phosphoric acids, sodium acetate, calcium propionate, sodium ascorbate, alpha tocopherol, sodium erythrobate, and rosemary extracts. That last one really had me surprised. I know that I've done all I can for the last 5 years to eliminate sodium nitrate and sodium nitrite from any foods that I buy. Yes, I'm the irritating guy in the grocery store who stands there and reads all the ingredients of everything in every food product that I buy. The study indicated those who consumed the most of those preservatives experienced a significantly higher risk than those who consumed the least. A second study that studied the same participating pool data found that some of these additives contributed to breast and prostate cancer, including sorbates, sulfites, sodium nitrite, and acetates. So, a word to the wise, be careful what you eat. This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.